It's time to start our city council meeting, so we'll call the meeting to order. If you would, please stand for prayer. Let's pray. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and all the many blessings, Lord. We thank you once again for giving us an opportunity to come out and participate in local government, Lord. We pray that we will do everything in accordance with thy will. We pray for our country and the leaders of our country, that they will always look to thee for wisdom and guidance. Lord, we pray for the sick, and especially the ones that are close to us, if you will return them back for much wanted health, it be thy will. Forgive us of our sins. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Chief Ethridge will lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Everyone's here, but last month, need a motion to approve the minutes of last month's meeting.
I'd like to make one correction on the
Okay.
minutes if I could. Where it says that David Langford made a motion to hire Christian Mansell as the building inspector. That's true. Ronald Ishman second the motion. The motion passed 5-0. That is right. There was no mention of pay during that vote. After we made the vote, that's when you stated that he would be making $40,000.
That's correct. Where you want the record to reflect that?
Okay, the vote passed 5-0 to hire. It did not say anything about the amount. You said the amount after he was voted to be hired.
Okay, what are you?
Nothing, I'm just making a correction to the minutes.
Okay. So you just want to add that to the minutes? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's your motion?
Yes, sir.
Motion made by Alderman Langford, second by Alderman Ishman.
The record's gonna state that we voted 5 yes to hire him,
Yes.
but the 40,000
You're
salary was afterwards.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There's a motion and a second to add the salary of Christian Mansell to the minutes. Is that correct?
No. The correction is that you made the statement after the vote had done passed 5-0 that he would be starting at 40,000.
Okay.
I think if we take the words "at 40,000 per year" out of that, is what he's saying. Dave Langford made the motion to hire Christian Mansell as building inspector. Ronald Ishman seconded the motion. The vote was 5 yes, 0.
Yes.
The pay was not included in his motion.
Right.
So just strike that section.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but that's the way it was.
Yeah. If you just strike the word.
Okay. So we're just striking that word. All right, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All for the motion, let them know saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Not having any, we don't have any business under old business number 1, so we go to new business. Item number 1 is downtown revitalization. Mr. Greg McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. Good to see all the aldermen today. We just have one thing. When we built the park, we decided we'd have a music series, concert music series.
Greg, if you would push the button down on the microphone.
Thank you very much. When we built the park, we decided to go ahead with the continued live at Livingston, but at the park. And each year we have ASCAP that we have, everybody wants a little piece of the pie. And what we're requesting this year, and this is an annual event, because once we started the music, is the BMI. And that's a $358. It's really going to be expense as long as we have music. And that's all we have.
Greg, exactly, that just allows us to play movies and music, which one?
Both music and music.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Ken Dotson, second by Alderman Langford. Any discussion, any questions for Elvis?
I have a quick question, but there's a motion on the table. Do we need to finish that?
No, got a motion second, this is discussion.
Just a real quick question, since we're talking about the park. Is there any way that we could see a schedule of scheduled events at the park? How do we know what all is scheduled for the park?
Well, you want me to answer it, or you want to answer that? Well, we do send it out. Rita has the annual encyclopedia that she sends out weekly with everything in it. It's in there, but it's lengthy. But what we do, Kelly, is we post it at the park. So let's just say you're at the park, you can see where we put a new thing up there, has all the events. It says how many times rounds, a mile, and so on. So all the events are posted, but we'll make sure that we take that out separate, and so that individually send it to you guys, so you don't have to read, a lot of people just thumb through it.
Also on the website, Livingston Central Park
Yes,
website.
it's on the website.
I don't see Shannon here tonight, but she takes care of all of that. It's a full schedule, but we'll make sure you're on the list. All the board members will be on the list,
Yeah.
so they know what's going on in Central Park. All right, we got a.
Yeah, and one more comment on that, so, you're great. Rita does a great job with the Lincoln Livingston thing, promoting whatever is going on there too.
Yeah, she
She's an
does.
active social media contact that a lot of people gets, and anything's going on with the parks on there too, so that's great, keeps everybody updated.
Thank you, Al.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All for the motion, let them know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
He sounds natural. Item number 2 is update on the flood mitigation. Is anyone here from Barge Designs? Yes. Feel, push the button there, microphone, thank you.
Thank you. The short answer is we're on schedule. We finished.
Can you identify yourself?
I'm sorry. I'm Adrian Ward with Barge Design Solutions. Charlie couldn't make it tonight, so I'm filling in for him. We did the field survey a week ago this past Friday. The surveyors and I came up here and surveyed sort of from the lake down to, I think the street is West 4th Street is where we found a couple of dual 15 or 18 inch pipes that went under 4th and then tied into a homemade junction box into like a 36 inch pipe. So that's the nearest spot we can find to get rid of water. That'll be the sort of downstream limit of our model. The survey was processed last week. We started on the hydraulic modeling then. We anticipate probably having some model results early next week for us to QC. And then as far as the sinkhole, we're trying to get a track drill scheduled. Water's been up a little bit, and then it's pretty steep over there, but we're trying to get a track drill scheduled sometime next week. Really, for the track drill, we're just trying to identify how deep to solid rock, just so that we can, TDEC has a standard sinkhole remediation detail, and how deep it is depends on how much riprap, how much pipe, stuff like that. So that's really what we're shooting for. Nothing really complicated, just how deep it is.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Is there any questions for Mr. Ward? Please, Skip.
Mr. Ward, you said that subsequent to the survey results, you'll begin the modeling, is that correct?
Right, we'd already started gathering some of the information. Y'all were on the first, I guess, Overton County and some of the others on the Cumberland Plateau were on that first round that the state went through and gathered a bunch of LiDAR, so we downloaded that. That will give us sort of the volume and the drainage areas. We started looking at drainage areas, how much water is feeding into the lake, and then this surveying of the pipes is how much coming in plus the pipes is how much can go out. And goal is that we can throttle it back enough and use the existing pipes without upgrading, because that'd be the cheapest option for y'all. Worst case is we have to upsize the pipe down to something of a more substantial size, but we're hoping we can throttle things back.
Okay, thank you. So, with the work that's been done thus far, and, are y'all still thinking that that's the viable option, would be to drain it into existing, storm drainage systems?
Yes, I would. My thought is your existing storm sewer system, really from the hill down till it gets to Fourth, floats between like 15, 18 inch. That's pretty much a minimum. But with that being said, it means that the drainage areas coming to it are probably fairly small, with, a couple thousand, definitely several hundred acres draining into the pond. It's going to take it a lot longer to hit the pond and for the pond to react before it is these sort of localized drainage systems, time concentrations to hit the local sewer. So my thought is that'll leave, so you'll see 100 grab come up and go down. The pipes will essentially dry, and then you'll have discharge from that overall larger watershed coming in.
Will the modeling give you what you need in order to make that final
Yes.
determination?
It will, as long as we can, if you remember from our scope, there was an assumption in there that we had to make some kind of an assumption about how far to cut the model off. And so our first sort of proposal to you is let us look at it down to Dokes, but now to a fourth. We believe that they're gonna offset based on one being really small and the other being really large. So yeah, at this point, we think it will. Now, the results will be the results, and if that's the case and they don't offset, but I'd be fairly surprised. I would think the drainage area coming to the smaller system, it's a lot of area up there, but draining to it, you couldn't get over more than like 10 acres. You'd be flooding all the time through it. So 10 acres versus 2,000 acres, it should be there and gone by the time the larger peak comes through.
Okay, so it sounds like you're wrapping some of your studies up. You said that the modeling's gonna be completed maybe next week.
Right.
Do you anticipate then, coming back here at our August meeting with a formal presentation?
What time is y'all's August meeting?
It's it'll be the first
First Monday.
few days of August.
Yeah, we were shooting towards the 4th to have the report wrapped up and something to present to y'all. That would be the results of the modeling, what we think we need to do, and then a cost estimate for any lake improvements and sinkhole improvements.
So by the August meeting here, you will have a formal report with recommendations.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
August the 5th.
August 5th, perfect.
August 5th.
Okay.
6 o'clock is when the next meeting will be. Any other council, if y'all have any questions for Mr. Wells from Barge Design? Thank you very much. Item number 3 is update on our street lighting, Mr. Ben Winningham, UCMC. On up, Ben.
Mayor Hayes, Aldermen, ladies and gentlemen, our LED lighting project, we're doing it in 4 sections. So section phase 1 is complete. That is 383 LED lights. That is on the southeastern side of town. Jamestown Highway, around the ballpark, LaSalle Street. Phase 2 is 411 lights. We're currently about halfway through that, which has got us close to the halfway point in the whole project. Phase 2 gets southwest town, Fraser Street, Villa Drive, Highway 42, County House Road, Hawkins Avenue. Phase 3 should finish town other than the bypass. The bypass will be phase 4. The reason we're saving that for last is that we have to wait for the state to do a study to see what size lighting we need for the bypass to get, all the lanes across. And also, so y'all know, any maintenance that my guys come across, whether it be tree trimming or any UCEMC maintenance is not being charged to y'all's account. So we're separating all that out, so the only thing y'all are paying for is the lighting. And that's where we are right now, nearly halfway done, just bear with us.
Thank you, Mr. Winningham. Any questions for Mr. Winningham?
No questions, just compliments, and it does look good, and it's sort of like
So far, we're getting a lot of positive
It's
from
positive.
this, so.
Any more questions, comments, Mr. Winningham? Ben, thank you for coming in.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Item number 4, responsibilities and guidelines of the Property Maintenance Board, Mr. John Meadows.
Mayor and Board, this, whenever the Property Maintenance Board was created, they kind of, there had been some discussion at that initial meeting about operating guidelines, policies, and procedure, things of that nature for the board. And since the Mayor and Board of Aldermen was the one that created this Property Maintenance Board, the only authority that Property Maintenance Board has is the authority that you all grant them as a governing body. So this is an outline of what their role is in serving as in an advisory capacity to the codes officer. And I think this clarifies some confusion initially about what role they play, and specifies that they're simply there to serve in an advisory capacity as opposed to being a fact finder or making any determinations. The codes that the board previously adopted already provides for a hearing mechanism. If someone appeals a decision that's been made, they have a right to appeal that and have an evidentiary hearing where they can argue their case. That's not going to be the role of the Property Maintenance Board. They're simply going to be there to serve in that advisory role. And these guidelines for to specify and clarify exactly what role the Property Maintenance Board plays in this and what's expected of them and what they should and should not be doing. I've had an opportunity to review this a couple different times, and we tweaked a little bit of the language, but I'm satisfied with these guidelines and would recommend that the board approve those.
Thank you, Mr. Meadows. Is there any questions for Mr. Meadows? Need a motion?
John, I have a question with this. You said you tweaked and looked over. Do you feel comfortable with what you've got here?
I do.
I have a question. Is this Board of Aldermen, these aren't people that are appointed by us, right?
That's correct.
They answer to the aldermen, and we're elected by the people. Then, if they're coming to us, then it's on our back if they do something right, instead of what they make a decision. This says they're not making decisions, correct?
That's correct.
So
I mean, the decision that they're making, Mr. Dishman, is whether or not they are in agreement with the decision that's been made by our codes officer or not.
it's putting up, yeah, right, because we're putting a lot on Christians, the codes guy, we're putting a monkey on his back too. You know, I mean, it's a big responsibility, and I believe Christian will do the best he can with it and what he knows to do. I have a concern with this, even if this entirely thing is legal. This property maintenance committee. I mean, I would like to see this, and and people can like whatever not is willing to, I don't care. I would like to see if the state or local attorney general's office can give us a ruling that this property maintenance committee is legal the way it was handled back in the minutes previously that we voted on.
I'm of the opinion that the creation of the property maintenance board is entirely legal. We vetted that, our ordinance, everything with MTS and the legal consultants there. And we are not the only city that has a property maintenance board. Some of them call them different things. The city of Crossville has one, and several other ones do as well. And I know whenever we initially created it, we reviewed some of the sample ordinances from some of the other cities that established it. So I don't have any doubts that property maintenance board I think it's legal and properly formed.
I mean, there's no doubt, I wanna see Livingston clean. I wanna see commercial businesses, residential, people come in and be proud to live in Livingston, Noble County. But I wanna see things done right and everybody treated equally, and the people that does it know what they do, and not be, some things be overlooked, some things not. I've always had this in question, and, you know, I'm just here to say.
And I think that from looking at it from a legal perspective, due process is the ultimate concern. And I think that our ordinance provides ample due process, as well as the time limits that folks have to correct issues, as well as the opportunity to appeal it and have a hearing.
Well, and then I read in this tonight that we're voting on, or some, we'll be voting yes or no on, that the people that wants to do a hearing will come to us for the hearing, not the property maintenance committee, correct?
No, I think the hearing would go before the city judge. I think it's the hearing mechanism that's set up in the ordinance that we've got.
So it'll be for the city judge.
And any unfavorable decision there could be appealed.
John, I think in some of the chapters may be a little bit different. In the ones, did we bring them? Yeah. If you'll take a look at this one, John, is where I think it does appeal to the Board of Aldermen. If we take a look at it here. This is on the property maintenance regulations.
Okay, one thing here on what we've been given tonight. Underneath the property advisory board is not authorized to hear directly from any citizen or property owner in attendance during a meeting, and direct the city code inspector on how to handle a code violation. Recommend to the city property owner what action must be taken to remedy a violation. Hold a vote to enforce action on any property maintenance matter. So they're just making a recommendation to this group of aldermen, and if the money's on our back, right?
I don't.
Christian, where is that? Have you got a copy of this?
No, it's,
What we was reading today.
it's Article 13, Chapter 1, be the third page in the, should be towards the,
I think the role of the property maintenance board is simply to serve an advisory role. It is to support our code enforcement officer. Okay, I don't think they're gonna be reporting to this board either. They're, I think the code enforcement officer will be following the code as far as issuing violations when someone is in violation. And then they will have all the rights specified in the code. So that they,
I'm just looking at every aspect of it in our position, but in Christians or the whole city of
and the property maintenance board was not vested with the authority to hear these cases and make determinations. They were simply appointed as to serve in an advisory capacity.
Okay. Thanks.
John, if you take a look at the 1, 2, 3, 4th page, under number 5, I think is where it's going to show the appeal process. You see the mayor and board of aldermen. We have that coming. I'm not sure all the other chapters may be spelled out a little bit different, but on this particular one, property maintenance regulation, chapter 1 under miscellaneous, in an appeal process, it will go from the board, it's spelled out in
Which page are you looking at?
the fourth, it'll be the 4th page.
Fourth page, first paragraph, first sentence. Starts with number 5.
The owner of record.
And it may be a different procedure than what
It
you have
is.
for the automobile.
It is. Yeah. We'd look
So
at
it
these.
would, Mr. Dishman,
Huh.
if they appeal any unfavorable decision of the codes officer, it would come to the board of mayor of
So John, just for the record, do you feel that the property maintenance?
I have no problem at all with these responsibilities and guidelines, and I feel like the guidelines, they need to have those guidelines. They need to know exactly what authority they have, and they need to know exactly what role they're gonna have, and what role they play. Otherwise, these property maintenance meetings are not gonna be very productive at all.
I would just like to add something further to that. You can also look at it another way, and that is that this advisory committee is that layer of, appointed citizens from our community that have the opportunity to see firsthand from the codes inspector what property violations may or may not exist, and have the authority basically just to share their opinion on whether it is or is not a violation, and it allows another layer of transparency to see what in fact is being done, to follow up, to ensure that these properties are being cleaned up and addressed and that the codes are being followed. On the other hand, if we were to have a codes inspector who's overly zealous and is out enforcing codes that he or she doesn't need to be enforcing, and they're on a wild, path and showing no regard for, treating people fairly, then again, that body has a way to keep, hopefully, this process in check. So you can look at it from both angles, and I think it has a benefit to our town, just to have more public volunteer efforts overseeing what's being done, what's not getting done. I personally feel that the more transparency we have, the more effective we as a city are going to be in addressing these concerns. Prior to having an advisory board, I'm not sure if anybody on this committee even would have been made aware of a complaint on a property maintenance issue. So again, I think this transparency helps us all to know more about what is and isn't getting done.
Thank you, Alderman Coleman. All right, is there a motion to accept this property maintenance advisory board guidelines, responsibilities, and guidelines? Is there a motion?
I make the motion.
Motion made by Alderman Kelly Coleman, second by Alderman Speck. Any discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Phillips.
Alderman Speck?
Yes.
Alderman Langford?
No.
Alderman Dishman?
No.
Alderman Coleman?
Yes.
Alderman Dodson?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Motion passed. Item number 5, ordinance 2019-7-1, rezoning lender property located at 537 Jamestown Highway from C1 to R2. Mr. Mansell? R1, sorry, thank you. Make sure you get that right. Pass that down, please. You got it. We'll talk about what happened in the planning commission meeting to have this happen.
They agreed to change that from, to a residential, this on the,
Lender property.
on the 537 Jamestown Highway.
Yes.
It's the last property in the city limits, and, it was voted, everybody agreed to let him change that property residential. There's residential houses all the way down through there, and, he is selling the property, and it was, hindering the sale being listed as commercial, and, I think they just want to speed up that process and get that taken care of.
Thank you, Mr. Mansell.
Make a motion to change it. Why isn't C1, but
Motion made by Alderman Dishman, second by Alderman Langford. Any discussion? All for the motion, let know by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Also, an announcement here, the Board of Aldermen will hear an appeal from James H. Vasiliff on July 15th, 5 o'clock. for the violation of Title 13, Chapter 1 of the Property Maintenance Ordinance. That is the appeal process. So it'll be at 5 o'clock, July 15th, 5 o'clock here at City Hall. And everyone should have a copy of Title 13, Chapter 1, Property Maintenance, as I handed out. So
Where's this property at?
Yeah, remind us which property that is.
That'd be on 719 High Tech Drive. That's right across from TCAT. It's there's a couple issues with overgrown and also several issues with abandoned vehicles.
thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Mr. Mansell?
I have a question. On the East University Street property that's overgrown with the ivy all over the building, I know you mentioned in the property maintenance advisory board meeting the other night that the city's getting ready to address it.
His time is actually up at 8:30 tomorrow. We are getting ready to set
So
that.
what are we gonna do?
Well, we are gonna go in and cut the brush down that's grown up between the block building and the brick house. I actually went over there this evening to look to see what the scope of work might be that we might need to be bringing chainsaws and whatever, which we do. The neighbor directly to the right of the property, Mr. Dale, Nathan Dale has been mowing the property that is closest to him just to keep the vegetation down, mosquitoes and such from his. So it's actually about half of the property is what we're gonna be cleaning up. The house covers most of it, but in between the two properties, it will take quite a bit of work to do it. And we are, Mr. Mayor and I, he explained to me earlier, the process in which it's gonna happen and how they'll be charged. And so most likely, we have planned Wednesday.
Okay, so the city is going to maintain a record of our expenses and charge them against its property taxes?
Yes, what we're gonna do is we're using the expenses, Kelly, at the rate that we did when Tina came in and done some work, and we had to keep out the record. So I'll have a supervisor's meeting in the morning, and we'll plan. So Wednesday morning, I think he said a violation actually after 8:30 in the morning tomorrow, so we'll maybe the first one.
I mean, that property's been, it's looked like that for, I don't know, several years. So I'm glad to see us doing something about it. And then the property that was, I guess the house that was torn down on Church Street. I noticed there was a dozer down there, and I guess did we actually, is that our dozer? We pushed it over the hill and then buried it and all that?
Yes, sir, we pushed it down and we're burying the house.
Okay, so we're gonna follow those same,
We will.
thanks.
Okay, if there's no other business, then the motion to adjourn. Motion made by Alderman Dishman, or second? Second by Alderman Ken Johnson, all for the motion, let know saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, we're adjourned.